So if you followed along the channel recently, you'd have seen I've been to Cambodia for a few weeks. I figured it was fitting to talk about the country's myths and stereotypes that I heard from people before coming here. Because after spending some time here, I was definitely surprised, and mostly in a good way. To start with, a myth or stereotype that I heard the most before I came here: Cambodia is just a btec or a poor man's Thailand. But no, I'd argue it's its own country. If we're talking about development, yes, Thailand is further along that path. But if you're getting fed up with the crowds and over-tourism, then Cambodia doesn't seem to have that. Just yet, anyway. The country definitely has a different feel to Thailand. It has its own culture, with somehow less rules than Thailand in some areas, and big differences when it comes to getting visas. Apparently it's a lot easier in Cambodia, from what I hear. And Thailand is getting even harder. And I'd also say, at least from my experience, the people are more friendly. Maybe because they haven't had to deal with over-tourism yet. The next myth I've heard is that it's dangerous. Now, with every country there'll be parts you'll want to avoid, but you shouldn't rule out an entire country if you have that mindset. Here's the reality: Cambodia is actually one of the most laid back and chill countries I've been to so far. I mean, I'd rather walk down the streets of Phnom Penh wearing expensive clothes than doing that in London any day of the week. Just keep your wits about you, don't go down flashing your jewellery and phone late at night, but that's just common sense. So talking about bad tourists, and that's all Cambodia apparently attracts. Look, Cambodia does have a history of bad tourists like its neighbour Thailand, but that's not everyone. Even more so with the more expats and business-minded people relocating here. It's not what people think. You have to remember you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with. So if you're going into bars and trying your luck with some of the ladies of the night, then I'm sure you'll bump into some of those tourists that do the exact same, and maybe take it too far. But if you're more into hiking a mountain, going to the gym, working from a nice jungle-themed cafe perhaps, then you'll be seeing a different crowd, that's for sure. Scambodia. Every country has its scams, and honestly, compared to others I've been to in Southeast Asia, it isn't that bad. The people are super friendly, but I'm not saying you should trust everyone, especially a dodgy tuk-tuk driver who's only trying to sell you certain substances after meeting you 30 seconds ago. But I will say the taxi drivers and some tuk-tuk drivers are known in Asia to try to be cheeky, but you can avoid all that just by using an app. Or after, if you found an honest tuk-tuk driver, you can just continue to use his services while you're there, which is what I did. Because the last thing I want is to agree upon something and then them try and change the price later on. A tip for avoiding that: if you don't want to use the app, just speak to a local perhaps, at the place you're staying or maybe somewhere that you've frequented quite a lot, to get you a driver or sort you one out. That seemed to work for me. And there might be a time or two you get overcharged because you're a foreigner in another country. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what country you're in, there's normally a tourist price and then there's a more local price. And that's just sometimes how it is out here. Cambodia having no future. People forget that Cambodia has only really started since the end of Pol Pot's reign in 1979, after around 20% of the population was killed. So it's gone from nothing to where it is now in less than 50 years. And if we're talking about growth and infrastructure, it definitely has that. I mean, every place I've stayed at in this country had Wi-Fi, had AC, and mobile data was good pretty much everywhere, even when I was at the top of a mountain or walking into random rice fields. It still had good connection. And the final one, this one's very common, I hear it a lot about foreigners that have come here. They talk about the food and say as a Westerner you're not going to like the local food because it's bad. And while I will disagree with this, because obviously it's going to be different, there's still a lot of foods that are worth trying. I enjoyed a lot of the meals I had out there, and yes, I did have some Western food here and there, but I'm not super picky. And if you are super picky with what you eat and you do that for every meal, you'll seriously be missing out on some real hidden gems. The only thing I'd say is just make sure to check whether it's spicy or not beforehand. And those are most of the myths and stereotypes I heard about Cambodia before I came here, but just to quickly sum up before I ended the video some of the benefits I believe. I think Cambodia is not only very safe, I think the people are friendly, I think it's cheap to live a reasonable life, your internet and mobile data is brilliant coverage, great weather if you can handle the heat, and it's not as busy as Thailand or Vietnam, with definitely a sort of similar feel, and the visas seem to be a lot easier to get. But hey, if there's any other myths or stereotypes you've heard about Cambodia, leave them in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.